What's going on, everyone? Badger here. Sure to like and sub, and let's get into this. This is the second person involved with New Jedi Order that has talked about how Star Wars is always political, but they've done it in the correct way, and they've mentioned classic politics. First, George Nolfi, the new writer, who I'm actually a fan of some of his things, and now Daisy Ridley, who actually, if you go back and you're fair, Daisy, while we may not like Rey and think she's a Mary Sue and blah 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 blah, she the actress has never really said anything bad about the fans. She's always been quite positive, and even on one of those horrible legacy media shows where they tried to bait her, she said no, the fans have always been very nice. So I tend to give her a bit of a leeway in things she says, and when they're on point, hey, they're on point. So she did have this right here. No, not the thing about her being offered an MCU role, because yes, actors and actresses want roles. They'll accept any of them for the most part. This is her talking about working on New Jedi Order with, of course, Charmin Obaid-Chinoy and George Nolfi as writer. She said, I certainly have been involved. I'm involved in, well, not very involved, but I'm involved in as much as, take a shot every time she says involved. I'm involved in as much as I know what's going on. I know the story. I know what's going on with the script. So I'm aware of all of that. And I think that what's been really wonderful over the last few years, besides getting money again, is being more involved from the start to finish. Yes, because famously with the sequel trilogy, there was no plans. They changed from movie to movie. Rey went from being literally a nobody to being Obi-Wan Kenobi's daughter to being Luke's daughter to being Palpatine's daughter. So that's must be nice to have at least a little bit of agency with your character to begin with. Really coming to set knowing that this is absolutely the best way we can tell this story. These are the best actors for the job. This is the best crew for the job. Having that confidence is so lovely. And it's not that I didn't have that before. She said the quiet part out loud. She didn't have that before. But I'm much more cognizant of it now. So in that way, I'm looking forward to turning up, really knowing the ins and outs and what the journey has been. And we're arriving at the best place to tell this particular story, which if you go back and before we see what she said about politics, which echoed the writer, George Nolfi, we can see that still we're told that we're 15 years out from Rise of the Skywalker. So we're kind of post-war, post-First Order, and the Jedi are in disarray, as in they don't exist. And there's a lot of discussion around who are the Jedi? What are they doing? What's the state of the galaxy? And she's attempting to rebuild the Jedi Order based on the books, based on what she promised Luke. So she's going to be doing what Luke should have done. Obligatory, yes, Star Wars is dead. I understand that. But they're still going to be parading its puppet around. And I'd at least like them to do that as respectfully as possible. I know that's silly, but still. This is very close to what happened in the original New Jedi Order books, where Luke saw all the failings of the previous Jedi and how connected they were to politics and the Senate, and he removed them entirely, took them off of Coruscant, didn't rebuild the New Jedi Order there, at least not at first, and he went back to Yavin. He made his Jedi Praxium there. And then he would still help the Republic, the New Republic, but he had to go according to the will of the Force. So his Jedi, much more in tune with the actual living Force, more Qui-Gon-ish, if anything. And you had to, you couldn't just go and petition them for everything. So Ridley, she said this. She was talking to Inverse. She says, "I feel like the Star Wars films are all political. I feel like it's the individual versus the big corporation or the big group. So I think they always have been. And ultimately, I think the films are emotional and that it's good and evil, which is nice to see that they think exists anymore, because for the Acolyte, all their goddamn stars were like, oh, no, I don't think it's just shades of gray. There's such thing as good and evil. Okay, no. Objective good and evil does exist sweetly in a space fantasy, space opera, Star Wars, she said. So she said, ultimately, I think the films are emotional and that's good and evil, which we can all relate to very specifically in our day-to-day lives. But yes, I do feel those conversations are woven within the story, and I'm very excited to see what George does. Now, George, in this case, being George Nolfi, who previously mentioned politics. First, he talked about his approach. This is George Nolfi, who wrote Ocean's 12, my personal favorite. I do like Adjustment Bureau, and Born Ultimatum, a couple others. He says, The way I approach it is you look what's come before you. You look at the broad ideas of what they want to do. You take in, meaning Lucasfilm, Disney, Charmin, the director, and then you do what a writer does and try and put beats of a story together, try and imagine characters, and then present what that with an understanding that it needs to honor. Obviously, a long, incredible tradition, and I'm hoping he ignores the sequel trilogies. But when Daisy mentioned classical politics, he mentioned classical politics, and it is more of the empire's Nazism / Roman Empire, fascist in the truest sense, with the outfits and the accents and the thing. So that is, at least he seems to understand. He didn't say Trump supporters. He didn't say lefties. He went back to the classical analogies. He says, if you think about George Lucas, the 6 movies that he did, and the universe he created, it's actually very steeped in the broad notions of politics. No, not what women think, but just the wide idea of politics. It's not talking about today per se, but there's the empire's Nazism / Roman Empire, the democracy of the Roman Empire collapsing and becoming an empire, and the perennial story of human beings organizing themselves and against chaos. And then the tools that help societies tamp down on chaos become oppression. So he mentions George. He doesn't mention the sequel trilogies or JJ or Ryan. Look, yes, Star Wars is dead. Yeah, we had the film threat funeral for a franchise, but they're still going to do it. And I would like, at this point, they're fan films, right? They're just fan films. And I would like the best possible Star Wars fan films that we can ever get to even just get a hit in that main vein of what Star Wars was actually like, even just for a second. It's going to be extremely distasteful seeing Rey do what Luke should have done. And I know most of you are going to say,
I don't care.
Or perhaps even,
I almost used the F word.
Regardless of how you're reacting to this, I know someone is certainly saying this.
You can't keep getting away with it.
But they will. They're going to keep making them. So we got to have a calm voice that is consistent and telling them what they want. And if they're going to put politics into it and the relationship between the Jedi and the New Republic, keep it broad, the broad notion of politics. Anyway, let me know what you think about all this. By all means, make sure to like, share, and sub. If you have done that, thank you. If you're going to do that, thank you. And
well, bye.